Hey, Marty Duda here.
And Jemilah Ross Hayes.
And we've got another edition of Uptown Lowdown. What do we got this time? What's up?
We're talking about Elton John's album and Lady Hawk's new single and
Dune, I believe. Oxford's very excited, so we're gonna have a chin wag about Dune and a whole lot more on the show. So watch now.
All right, so first up is our new album reviews released on Friday, and we've got Elton John with the Lockdown Sessions.
Yeah, old Elton, he's like 74 years old, and he got locked down and he couldn't stop making music. So he could have just been putting his feet up and, eating pizzas for most of the time. But instead, he got together, he made 16 tracks, mostly via Zoom. He's got Miley Cyrus, he's got the Gorillaz, Eddie Vedder, Stevie Nicks, all these people doing the thing with him. So and it just came out, so it's very fresh. And so we have this tape, this video thing that Elton has provided to us, his record company did, and where I think it was part of some interactive question and answer thing, but it gives us a good idea of what this is all about. And I think we got him talking about the track he did with Dua Lipa. So let's check it out.
Hi, Australia, New Zealand. This is Elton John here, and I hope you're well. I just wanted to say thank you for all the love on Cold Heart. It means the whole world to me. I had no plans to make any music at all during lockdown. So this really came together as an accident. It started in March 2020, and I met Charlie Puth at a restaurant in Los Angeles. I'd never met him before. And he actually lived only four doors away from me in LA. And he said, look, I've got a studio if you feel like coming up while you're here and writing something. So I did. And it's the track that appears on the record, after all, and that was fantastic. And the next day, I went next door to my music publisher's house, who lives 3 doors away from me, and I worked on the Surfaces track via Zoom, the first thing I'd ever done via Zoom. They were in Texas, and I played piano and sang on that track. And so the first two things really were those two things. And I came back to England, and then Damon Albarn asked me to play on Gorillaz. Rina Sawayama asked me to do a duet and play piano on Chosen Family. I did the Metallica Miley Cyrus track with Andrew Watt. I did It's a Sin with Ollie Alexander. And then I went and did Glenn Campbell and Little Nas X. And I thought, I've got the germ of an album here. And then we got the Panal track, which was just me singing, and I thought, I don't want to sing the Rocket Man bit. We got to get someone else to sing that. And this year we took Dua Lipa to dinner in Los Angeles, and I'd become friends with her. And my manager said, listen to the track and see if you like it, and play it by the pool very loudly, and then give us a call. And she did play it by the pool very loudly, and she called us and said, I'm in, I want to do it. So, gradually I got an album coming together. So I thought, I'm going to continue. I went to Los Angeles, and I went with Andrew Watt in the studio and did Brandy Carlisle, Stevie Wonder, Young Thug, and Nicki Minaj, and Stevie Nicks. And then I came back, and S.G. Lewis had finished the track that I'd written with him in the studio. So I had 16 tracks. Oh, I did Jimmy Allen in LA as well, put a vocal on that track. So voila, out of nothing. It's all Charlie Puth's fault, basically. So there you go.
It's a human sign when things go wrong, when the scent of her lingers and temptation strong, cold heart done by you. Something's looking better, baby. Just pass it through. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time till touchdown brings me round again to find I'm not the man I think I am at home. Oh, no.
Okay, so that was Elton John, and he's talking about the Lockdown Sessions. What'd you make of it?
I thought it was really cool. I'm just astounded by how many different people he's collaborated with on this album. And in the little snippet where he's talking about the people he's collaborated with, it's just, he's the coolest guy. I didn't know so much about him, and
Yep.
he's talking about sort of helping artists, like up and coming artists,
Yep.
and wanting to work with all these kind of people. And I just love that. I think it's so cool for someone to, at his caliber, to be
Yep.
still listening to new artists.
Well, what I love is the fact, what really came through is his passion for the music still.
Mhm.
I mean, like I said, here's a guy who could just be putting his feet up and chilling out. And instead, he just can't help himself. So I love that about him. So check out the record. Yep, it's the Lockdown Sessions. Now, the next new album we got is by a guy named Helado Negro, which is Spanish for black ice cream. His real name is Roberto Carlos Langui, and he's of Ecuadorian descent, but I believe he grew up in southern Florida, outside of Miami. Then he was like part of the hipster Brooklyn scene. And then when I talked to him, which we'll talk about in a minute, he had moved to North Carolina, which is kind of bizarre. But he has a new album out. It's called Far In as opposed to Far Out. And yeah, it's got some, we'll check out a little bit of the song first. We'll play, and then we'll talk about what he sounds like and what you thought of it. This is called Outside the Outside.
All night, terrified, kissing you twice. Loyal rings, holding on tight. 'Cause here's the way to lose your mind.
Okay, that's Helado Negro with Outside the Outside from his new album called Far In. What'd you think of him? Have you heard of him before?
I've never heard of him before, but I was quite pleasantly surprised. I thought it was a really nice sort of in between mellow and upbeat. It was kind of like really easy to listen to in a nice way. And it was kind of, I quite enjoyed sort of just listening to it while I was getting some things done.
I can see how that could happen. Yeah, I felt the same way about it. I wasn't that familiar with him. He's made a few records before this, and there's quite a bit of little hype going on around it. So of course I had to see if I could talk to him, which I did, and got the found out that like that song that we just heard, Outside the Outside, was all about when he was growing up in Florida, in Miami, and his parents would have these house parties, and all his relatives. In fact, you could the footage that we saw with the video just now is part of those old things. So anyway, here he is talking about the house parties and growing up in South Miami.
Yeah, what you see in that video is a lot of friends of my family that they had met in Florida, and some people from my family moved from Ecuador to New York in the 60s. And then, my parents met in New York. They moved there separately.
Right.
My mom grew up in Manhattan. My dad grew up in Long Island. And then, then they moved to South Florida. And South Florida, I would call it the capital of Latin America. There's
Sure.
like
Yep.
there. And so it was easy for them to converge with people, at least like finding community through music and food and language, and sharing some cultural identity ideas. And so a lot of the things you see in that video are just folks from different places, really. Folks from all over Latin America hanging out at my house. We're friends that I grew up with, family
So
friends.
is that old home footage?
Yeah, it is.
I thought there might be.
people that I
I
know,
didn't
yeah.
know for sure. That's cool. Okay, that was Helado Negro. Check out the whole album. It's very smooth, very groovy. Might even want to shake your booty a little bit. All right, now for our single of the week, it's by Lady Hawk. Good old Pip Brown is her, I believe, real name or given name. But anyway, Lady Hawk's got a good one called Time Flies. So before we get into it, let's play some so everybody knows what we're talking about, okay?
I fly in an aeroplane to see my own home again. Gotta make it, I'm feeling like I'm kind of falling over. All over the radio, they're playing our song again. Got me feeling in love again. I'm kind of falling down on fast talk, so gotta make the time go. Big plans, small friends. Don't know how the time flies. Don't know how the time flies. Don't know how the time flies by. Into the sky, carry us home where we belong. We're always gone.
All right, so that was a little bit of Lady Hawk's Time Flies, and her new single that's just been released on Friday.
And it's the title track from her album that's coming out in a couple of weeks as well.
Oh, exciting. Yeah. I thought it was really nice. I love that guitar riff that
Right.
kind of repeats and comes at the beginning. It's so catchy and just immediately draws you into wanting to hear the rest of the song.
Yep. And Lady Hawk's been kind of laying low for a while, so it's good to see her out and about again. And because she was like the deal for a little while, and she was making it big over in the UK quite a bit, I think. So it's
Yeah.
nice to see. I think this song here and the album has its roots in LA. She was working with some producer over there. So now she's over here and she's got a tour coming. So we'll have to check her out. When she comes around. It'll be fun. Okay, time to talk about our film of the week. And as usual, we have Oxford with us. He took the week off last week, and Jemilah and I had to deal with the Velvet Underground on our own. But that's all right. Oxford's here this week, and we're going to talk about Dune. The new movie, the new version of Dune. I don't know if it's coming out in New Zealand this week or next month, but it's out around the world, and that's what counts.
It's not safe for you here.
I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. When the fear is gone, only I will remain.
This is only the beginning.
It's out everywhere, and it's definitely worth talking about because I've not only been psyched for this for years now. You'll know I've sent you 100 emails being like, put me on Dune when it comes out. But also it's fantastic. So there are limitations with it. There are limitations with the story and also what you can do, how the vision that they had. But for me, overall, I'll just say that I was very pleasantly surprised, and my extremely high expectations for certain parts of it were met. Which was the important thing for me. Otherwise, but so exceptional. Yep. And I'd love to hear your thoughts because I could nerd out on this for
okay,
like
well,
4
before I give you
hours.
I'll just say that I'm old enough to have seen the original Dune in '84 in the cinemas, so I have that to base stuff on. But Jemilah probably is the least familiar with the story and the film. What's your Dune experience so far?
I hadn't really heard of it until about a couple of weeks before it came out, and Kun had been talking about it a lot. He's kind of into that whole scene, and it was like as soon as I showed him the email from you that was like, here's the screener for it, he's like, yeah, we get to watch it early.
Yeah.
And I thought it was good, but it was hard to evaluate it because I had nothing to evaluate it against, and because of that, I found that like I was looking at it from 2 different perspectives. Like from a sort of cinematic perspective, it was really beautifully done.
Yes.
But then from the hype that I was getting from other people, I was expecting it to be more kind of like a different kind of film. I was expecting it to be sort of more humorous, like more kind of like directly comedic and kind of like dramatic. And it was very, it was all of those things.
I'm
but
so glad it wasn't. I'm so glad they chopped out Jason Momoa. I'm so glad that the trailers slightly deceived me and like my man Aquaman jumping around being like, hey, it's me, Jason Momoa. You know me from every popular film. And it's like, you're not in Dune, dude. Like, yeah. So I was glad that they made it dry. That was good. So excellent.
Yeah.
Even though it didn't meet what I had expected, that wasn't particularly a bad thing. I thought it was like really interestingly done. But it was funny, like you say from the trailer, my sister's going on about how, oh my gosh, it's like Zendaya's in the movie. She's like in there for 4 or 5 seconds, she's got like
perfect.
It's so funny.
Perfect. So happy. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah. So that's amazing.
Very cool. So my take on it was I enjoyed it more than the original. Mostly, fortunately, there was no sting in diapers, so that's a plus. And the only thing I would say about this one is should have had more worm in it. More sandworm would have been good.
Yeah.
But the technical quality of the filmmaking is beyond compare on this. I mean, it's just amazing. So there's that. The story is what it is. It's pretty close to what was originally in the original Dune film. I was surprised how much it matched up. So it's more slicker looking and makes a little more sense this time around.
Have either of you read the books?
No,
I actually was just about to. Like, we have it
Really?
at our house, and I was about to bring it from our flat to Waiheke for lockdown, but then I ended up reading Everest instead, the one about Everest.
I would have been. It would have
Yeah.
been great for 12 weeks. You could have gone through
I
the
know.
whole insane
so
saga.
I assume you've read the book.
Sorry?
Have you read the book?
Yeah, I read the books when I was younger. I was very much into sci-fi and that, but I also played a video game called Dune 2000, which was highly popular, and that was amazing. And so a lot of the design structures that they've done in this as well, some of the like shots specifically, like I felt a real heavy hit of nostalgia for me, being like 6-7 years old playing this game.
Right.
But so there are a lot of things that it added in where all different types of fans could be in love with it. But so from a purely like nobody, you don't know anything about it. So it's a very long film that should have been really about 5.5 hours long.
Right.
And it's cut in what is the middle of the second act of
So
the
there's
main story
there's
that
going to
we're
be a
watching
part
at the
2 coming, isn't there?
So they didn't know. They didn't know
Well-
there was going to be a part 2. It's bold, but I mean, like when you're dealing with Dune, it's like, sure, why
Yeah.
not? I'm not going to sacrifice it because we've done that before. But the interesting thing is so the second half will be the massive, basically when everything kind of goes a little bit more sandwormy,
It
essentially.
Felt like there needed to be a part 2. And
Yeah.
one thing that I would say
Oh, sure.
from someone who doesn't know about the story is that it took quite a while to understand what was going on without any context. We're sort of having to pause it and have discussions like, wait, so that's that and that's
I
that.
noticed
That
that
is-
in the original
that's the
film, there was a
issue.
lot more exposition at the beginning of the film,
Yeah.
and they were
Well, so
basically
that's-
reading the book to you for a bit.
They're essentially, they're shoving exposition down your throat in that initial one because you have to do that. And that's why it should be a 5.5 hour film watched
Right.
kind of together in 2 parts, because you have to dedicate this much time to telling you all about these houses and getting their aesthetic and everything. And
Yep.
that works wonderfully in a super long film. But when you don't know what's going to happen next for you as the viewer, that's really interesting. And I imagine it would be kind of frustrating because it does feel semi-unfinished. It feels like the last 10 minutes were kind of like chops on at the end when they were like,
Yeah,
you gotta
yeah.
just put on this.
Off we go.
But yeah, so it could have been
Thumbs
done
up.
a little bit differently. But cinematically, the aesthetics of this film are
Yeah.
exceptional.
Yes.
Everyone commits. They go real deep into actually, even again, Jason Momoa and the Zendaya and people who is very fan focused and wouldn't really care so much about the actual material of the film. They're seeing so much as wanting to go and be entertained. It's really nice to see those actors dive in as well and still not kind of portray their kind of. Jason Momoa didn't have much makeup on and just looked like a big, heavy, tired, war-ridden dude. And I was like, awesome. This is great.
That's
Like,
good.
he doesn't look pretty. Sick.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, yeah, fantastic. But so, aesthetically gorgeous. For lovers of cinema and watching it, perfect. And story, I was very, very happy. So
So I will
only
say,
hope that continues.
I did go, because we're in lockdown, I did go down the Dune wormhole, so to speak. And
Nice.
so I watched the new one, I watched the old one, and then I watched, I found out about this film that was supposedly attempted to be made in the 70s of Dune by Alejandro Jodorowsky, or whatever. How do you pronounce his name? Do you know?
Jodorowsky. I
Yeah, it's
think it
John
is.
Jodorowsky. So amazing. And there's a doco that's available on Apple Plus for like 99 cents.
Yo quería hacer una película que diera a la gente que tomaba LSD las alucinaciones que la droga daba sin alucinación. Mi ambición con Dune fue tremenda. I want to create a prophet, to change the young mind of all the world.
There's Jodorowsky's mind, and then there's everybody else's minds.
3,000 drawings. I shoot the picture, point of view, movement of the camera, dialogue.
Designing the spaceships, the clothes, the whole look of his world.
I have Moebius, who was a genius. He was very quick. Giger nunca había hecho películas. I say to Giger, I need you as you are. Chris Foss, a real genius. Music, Pink Floyd. David Carradine for Leto was perfect. And Brontes, my son, was perfect for Paul. I had Orson Welles, Mick Jagger, and Salvador Dalí as the Mad Emperor of the Galaxy. Dalí said to me, I want to be the actor más pagado de Hollywood. $100,000 la hora. I offer to you the most important picture in the story of the humanity. We will change the world.
There's no Star Wars without Dune, no Alien, no Blade Runner, there's no Matrix.
It always leads back to Jodorowsky.
And I would just watch that before we're doing this, and that blew me away. That was the best bit of cinema.
So that's fantastic. When you get into looking at the old material, especially that, you get very much into that like like Geiger-esque kind of art. Where you
and Geiger's in the film.
And also some there was that like Terry Gilliam. It has a feel like early Terry Gilliam in the design of all that kind of stuff. This lucid weird thing. But yeah, so fantastic, but brilliant film, excellent. Timothy Chalamet is fantastic. Rebecca Ferguson, who I don't usually rate too highly, was exceptional. Oscar Isaac and Baron Harkonnen. That was the guy Skarsgård.
And do you feel bad that you didn't see it in the cinema?
I wish I had. I was gutted, but I shut off all the lights and just kind of held my little sandworm kind of framing goggles in. No, it was good. I would go see it again. That's the thing. If they released this, they just showed this at the cinema constantly, where you could just go watch it. I'd go see it like every couple of weeks. It's amazing. Just in like, it's just beautiful to look at.
We turned off all the lights as well and did a full no phones cinema experience, and it definitely like helped getting to it. The only other thing I would say as well is that I found all of the talking really muffled. It was almost like I needed subtitles, and I couldn't.
Yep, I found that.
In
I thought it was my
subwoofer
that was causing the problem.
It's
a
very quiet film that it is subdued. Like it's not. Yeah, watch it. That's why again, watch it loud, big speakers. That's what it's made. It's what it's made for. So unfortunately, the world just has other plans for us at the moment. But we keep going on. But so definitely check it out as soon as you can, because it's loved
awesome.
it.
Well, thank you, Oxford. I'm glad you provided us with the Dune experience.
I'm so happy.
I'm completely immersed now. So
perfect. Well, wait till you get to the part where Paul's son merges with the sandworm. So that's. The icing on the crazy cake. Yeah, blow your mind. Yeah, you'll be pausing for hours to talk about that. Fantastic. Lovely to catch up with you both.
Okay,
again.
thank you.
We're soon to discuss the spooky season ahead.
Yes.
Thanks,
all right. Peace.
Bye.
See you guys. Bye now.
Okay, interviews of the week. We have two of them. I did one, you did one. Pretty cool, huh?
Yes, pretty
All
cool.
right, I'll take the first one and then I'll throw it over to you. I spoke to someone named Lauren, who I have to say, I thought of Ren and Stimpy when I heard the name Lauren, but her real name is Lauren, and that's what her parents kind of called her.
Right, that makes sense.
Which makes more sense than me. And of course, in the interview, if you watch the whole thing, you'll hear me embarrass myself by telling her that as well. But anyway, she's got her debut album. It just came out. It's called Leftovers. She's Canadian, so when I talked to her, she was in Montreal, where she lives now, but she grew up on the West Coast near Vancouver, in on an island off of Vancouver, kind of a rural area. So we talked about that a bit. So before we check out the interview, I'll just play a little snippet of a song called I Already Love You.
All my life you have been a stranger. Still I feel that I know your face. Now I wait for the day I can say I already love you.
All right, so that was Lauren, a song called I Already Love You, which is from her debut album, Leftovers. So I did speak to Lauren, and I asked her specifically about that song. And well, apparently her mother is seen in the video that we just saw. Mm-hmm. And so when this is what I love about doing interviews. When we first come on the Zoom, I can see that she's got a bunch of guitars hanging up behind her, right?
Yeah.
So I say, okay, that's nice. You got banjos and guitars back there. Turns out, well, you'll hear it, but she tells me a little story about the making of one of the guitars. I like your backdrop there, banjos and guitars, fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
As it should be.
This guitar, this little pink part is part of an old Barbie car.
Okay, I wouldn't have guessed that.
I wouldn't have known either. It's my roommate's, but it's like, I guess, like part of the side door that was broken off, and now it's a piece of an electric guitar.
As it should be, I'm sure. And is it the same roommate who shot the cover art for your photo or your album?
Exactly. Dolores. Yeah.
Cool.
She's multi-talented.
I can see that now. Yes, obviously. Were you a big Barbie fan growing up? Did you have Barbies?
You know, I wasn't. I remember having one Barbie and cutting its hair. I had very short hair as a kid.
Right.
So I remember kind of trying to see myself in this strange doll and giving her a pretty crude haircut.
Right.
Like, yeah, it wasn't a good look for her.
Well, at least it didn't go the other way and you didn't give yourself a haircut to match the Barbie.
You know, it's true. I definitely did give myself a couple haircuts. Definitely when I had the short hair too, where I was like trying to clean up the back, like a no look cut. Classic, where I'm like, this is probably good.
Your mother must have loved it.
Yeah, she wasn't too pleased.
She's pretty pleased with the album, though. You've written 2 songs about her.
One song I wrote about her, and then one song she's featured in the video, but it's actually about like me thinking about being a mother myself. But yes, the song Diane is dedicated to her.
Diane holds my hand when I'm screaming out like a child who didn't get her way. And I swear if you follow her stare, you can see what you seek and then chase her like a ball on a string.
Okay, so that was my interview with Lauren. Let's throw it over to you, and you talked to Graham Candy. Tell us all about him.
Yeah, it was a lovely chat. Really easy to talk to. Sometimes when you do these interviews, you know, and you've said this before as well, it just feels like your best mates instantly.
Yep.
He's Kiwi living in Berlin at the moment and sadly hasn't seen his family a long time due to COVID. And we're talking about his new album or EP that's just supposed to come out, Keep On Smiling, and his track Aroha, which we'll play a little bit of that for you.
Let's give it a spin.
When winter comes, and when the winter comes, we're gonna fly over to the down under. Whoa, where the sun don't die, gonna say hello to the down under. I'm gonna say hello to the long white cloud line. Whoa, where the sun don't die, gonna say hello to the down under. Oh, love, give me that aroha. Sing it, oh, love, give me that aroha.
All right, so that was a little bit of Aroha by Graham Candy. That's one of the songs off Keep On Smiling. And I interviewed him and we talked about lots of things, amongst living in Berlin and what it's like being a Kiwi overseas, and the Portland Public House, which he actually started, when he was over in New Zealand, which I had no idea. He just kind of casually mentioned it. I was like, I love the Portland Public House. And it's all going well, don't worry. But we're talking about his album and how timely it is, because it's sort of about that idea of just keeping on smiling and just getting through it. And here's a little snippet of him talking about that.
But Keep On Smiling, I mean, there's that undertone of like, we were here, like we started getting to lockdown in March last year, and we were pretty hardcore. Like we've been, I think altogether was at least 12 to 13 months of like full on crappy lockdown. So it's, this is kind of the song, just like keep on smiling. I just keep going through it. And yeah, I mean, that kind of, the whole EP kind of together just has this kind of positive undertone for sure. I mean, Aroha is about like when the winter comes, I've got to fly back home. Unfortunately not. So yeah, just keep on smiling and hopefully one day be able to get back to New Zealand.
All right, so that's Graham Candy. Jemilah got to talk to him. Who knows what we'll be talking to next week, but we'll feature something on it. I got a couple of them in the can already. I'll tell you.
Always
good stuff. All right, time for our up-and-coming artist of the week, and we have an act from Wellington called Nova, which is comprised of Brian Van Vliet and Eliza Picard. What do you know about these guys?
I haven't heard much about them in terms of their names, but I've heard a lot about bands that they've been a part of before. I'm sure Bryn has been on Toy, Tunes of I think.
Right.
Which I know and love. And it's really exciting, I think, when two people from different musical projects come together and kind of create a new musical child. And I think that can be like such a cool mix of all different styles and genres. And you can definitely hear that in their music. Like I mean, I think they've just released an EP, but before that, they just had like 2 songs on Spotify, and both of them are just at a really nice quality.
All right. Well, let's listen to one of those songs. I think this is the lead song on the EP. It's called Patience.
White ghost cover me in blanket that stone floated wildly father son. Why do I have to leave it all? Patience, but patience is my flaw.
All right, that was a bit of Patience by Nova. Definitely new up and coming artist. I would not be surprised if we hear more from them in the future.
I love finding these guys, these new people.
Same.
Next
So-
year they're all going to be superstars, and we can say we knew them when. Okay, time to check out a couple of new albums that we're looking forward to that are going to be released this coming Friday. The first of which is by our gal Tori Amos. Now, Tori's been around a while. She kind of made her mark in the early 90s and was kind of part of the whole 90s scene for a lot of people. But she's been consistently making great music all along. So she has a new album called Ocean to Ocean. And well, before we talk about her, let's listen to a clip of Tori actually talking about the song on the album called Speaking with Trees.
Speaking with Trees really is in honor of my mom, Mary, who passed away a couple years ago. And I guess during the pandemic, not being able to call her or hear her voice really got to me. And it is true, I have hidden some of her ashes in this treehouse in Florida. And so I would be in Cornwall in England and beam myself to the treehouse just to have a conversation with her. So it was just one of those songs that could almost get me to time travel to be close to my mom. The idea sonically for Speaking with Trees was to develop a tree language, a rhythmic language. And I would go out in Cornwall and literally listen to the trees. Just listen to them. We are in the middle of nowhere in Cornwall, so you don't see many people. You see more creatures, more animals than people. And so the trees are almost, I don't know, they take on personalities. And so I wanted to try and capture that idea that you could have these amazing conversations with trees.
Speaking with trees, I'm almost sure.
So that was Tori Amos talking about Speaking with Trees. What do you think of Tori?
I think that she's just like you say, consistently good. I think that this song is really catchy. I don't know what I was expecting, but I liked it. It's not sort of like super up my alley in terms of genre, but it's like, because she's consistently good, you kind of can't hate it, you know. And she's always released songs that have been catchy, I think, all throughout, even growing up, you know, hearing them on the radio or on the like CDs in the car. You just kind of sing along and you can't help it.
Right. I don't know if you've ever seen her, any clips of her playing live, but when she usually surrounds herself with banks of keyboards, and she can play them all at the same time and sing. And it looks like an octopus. I swear, she's just like playing like this and like it's. I've never seen anybody like. I don't know how you can do that.
That's
and
crazy.
It's just amazing. So she's an impressive musician, and it's always good to have a new one from Tori. And our next album is by The War on Drugs, which is called I Don't Live Here Anymore. And before we talk about that, we'll just play a bit of the title track.
Think about the old days, babe. You're always on my mind. I know it ain't like I remember. I guess my memories run wild. Like when we went to see Bob Dylan. We danced to Desolation Road, but I don't live here anymore. But I got no place to go.
All right, new music from The War on Drugs. I think it's going to be a huge album this year.
Yeah.
We Don't Live Here Anymore is the name of the song and the album. What'd you take from it?
I really liked it, which is, I guess, quite a big thing because I'm not generally someone who likes rock, but it's not
Right.
too heavy and it's quite melodic. And I do like rock music that's kind of got another influence, or even though I can't really get on with the whole screaming thing, but it's really not like that. It's
No,
very
they
well
don't do that. They're more like rock, like Tom Petty rock, rather. In fact, I think
Yeah.
they mentioned some of those guys in the song, maybe. So, if I remember correctly. So.
Yeah, I really liked it. And I can see it reaching quite a big audience because of that sort of in-between place that it is.
Yep. All right. Well, good stuff from The War on Drugs. We'll have to listen to the whole album when it comes out next
Sure.
week. So, and that's it for this episode of the Uptown Lowdown. Jemilah, always good to see you. One
Yeah, always
day
good
we
to
will
see
be
you,
in the
Marty.
same room together, but
I
that day
know.
will not be soon. It doesn't look like
Moving
so.
further and further away, but
Oh, man. All right. Well, have a great week, and I'll talk to you again next week. Bye-bye.
yeah, you, Marty, see ya.
I never took our love for granted. You never left me wanting more, but you never recognized me, babe. I don't live here anymore. Like a heart, I'm gonna walk through every doorway.
The 13th Floor Uptown Lowdown is brought to you in part by a grant from the New Zealand Music Commission and by the Uptown Business Association.
I'm